finding good free games on Steam can be tough. Not everyone has 60 or, well, I guess now studios are charging $70 per game. It's even harder to find a free game that's not only decent and fun, but one that you can actually run if you have a potato computer. Now, I'll be honest, I don't struggle with this, but I do know your pain. I've been there, and I know the struggle. So I've done the research and found games that are not only fun to play, but you should be able to run them on any computer. These games are very easy to run for today's standards, so if you're still having trouble running them, please don't hate me. I tried to give you the best balance of having a fun free game while still being relatively easy to run for the majority of people out there. Feel free, though, to leave a comment on some free games that you like to play that are also easy to run so others can find them too. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our future videos. So here goes. Here are the best free Steam games that you can run on basically any computer. Starting this list off, we have Tag: The Power of Paint, which is a single-player platformer game that combines jumping, wall running, and painting. I think this game is one that you'll probably hop on every now and then if you want something to kill time, so I wouldn't expect you to get hours and hours out of it. It's got a cool concept behind it though, so depending on the color of paint you use, it unlocks a certain ability. So for instance, red paint will give you a speed boost, while green will give you a jump. It's kind of a cool way of transforming the generic platforming tropes that you expect from this type of game. There isn't a whole lot of substance with this one, but it's fun, and it's definitely something you should check out. Gun Devil is kind of weird, but extremely fun, and has some pretty high-octane gameplay. So the premise is that you are traversing hell in order to save your kidnapped hell wife. It's weird, but given the game's overall theme, it actually works, and the game comes off as being funny and lighthearted, so you really aren't supposed to take it all too seriously. The game is actually fairly new, but the graphics and gameplay somewhat resemble something like the classic Castlevania games. The gameplay in particular, though, is very fast-paced, like the classic shoot-'em-ups, but with dashing and super quick movements. It's just an overall good 2D platformer shooter game that has a funny story, good characters, a surprisingly good and unique original soundtrack, and of course, can run on basically any PC. Neon Beats is a game we've actually covered before. I think it was in our Rhythm Games video, but it's coming back and being featured in another video, and for good reason. Of course, because it's easy to run, but also it's just a solid timing-based platformer game. Okay, I just gotta throw this out there first. The soundtrack for this game is just god tier level. It's so good. I mean, you would hope so, right? The gameplay is like Geometry Dash, but just a bit more advanced. Like, it isn't just tapping the screen to go up and down. You have other elements or, platforming in there, and it works really well. The only real downside to this one is that you only get a limited amount of levels for the free game, and then you can buy expansion packs for more levels, although those are only like $2. Anyway, solid game and worth looking into. Ducks Can Drive is a single-player or multiplayer driving game where you race as a duck. That's basically it. Not really. I mean, there are other features involved, but that's the basic premise of the game. This one is actually another fairly new release and has a decent audience already. The driving is super arcadey, but surprisingly not too bad. Like, I'm personally not a huge fan of racing games because I suck so bad at them, but this one had me enjoying the gameplay a lot. There's a lot of customizing that can go on with your duck or bird in your car. I also mentioned before that it's only a racing game, but not really. You also deliver food to other ducks around the city and try to earn more money so you can upgrade your vehicle and hopefully win the race, which I actually liked a lot. The game gives you more to do and focus on during the race than other games. But yeah, it's a fun game to play with your friends and super easy to run too. Cave Crawler is a 2D platformer game with shooting elements and cave exploration. Currently, there are only 5 levels to play and a boss fight, so not a whole lot of content, but I think enough to keep you entertained for a decent amount of time. I think this one may also be on itch.io, so obviously that means that this is pretty easy to run. The game reminds me a lot of Downwell, which I believe is a paid game, but the whole color profile and style just looks really similar. Not really too much to say about this one. It's a fun and short little 2D action platformer game that you'll want to have in your Steam library. Okay, stepping up the PC requirements just a tad, we have Slay the Dragon. Now this one is still pretty easy to run for a lot of computers out there, and definitely one you'll want to try. The game is a fantasy hack and slash game that follows a little girl and her adventures to save her younger brother from a dragon. The story, the graphics, the whole vibe of the game is just, it's so enjoyable. I love it, and it's got the feel of a paid game. You fight tons of different creatures and enemies in the game, but the game has some limitations, obviously. It isn't super long, and there are other limitations like weapon choice and fighting animations, but honestly, I overlooked those considering how much I was enjoying the game. It's fairly easy to run, and it's short, but really unique, and I highly recommend checking this one out. Just going to throw this out there, I'm not a huge fan of Brawlhalla, but I can't ignore the fact that it's not only easy to run, but it's got a huge player base, consistent updates, and just a really good value considering the game is, well, free. Most watching probably already know what Brawlhalla is, but for those who don't, it's a 2D fighter game that can either be really competitive or casual, but most likely will become really competitive. One thing I will say about Brawlhalla is their dedication to the community. They are always adding in new characters, and they're proud to say that there really is no pay-to-win aspects to the game. So if you want to get good at the game, basically just grind and practice, which is how it should be, honestly. Not too much else to say. The game is top tier in terms of free games. It's easy to run. You can easily get hundreds to thousands of hours out of it. So if you haven't hopped on the Brawlhalla train yet, it may be time to do so. I think we may have featured Jaded on one of our previous videos a few years ago, and I'm happy to feature it again. It's honestly a classic at this point. So the game is a 2D platformer game with elements of action and fighting. There's a cool mechanic in the game where you can actually slow down time and do a full 360 dash towards a specific direction. This mechanic in particular really sets this game apart from other 2D platformer games. The graphical style is it's really solid, and you can tell the developers took a lot of time creating the scenery and enemies. Even the elemental graphics are super colorful and contrast with everything else in the world. I don't know, it's easy to tell a good-looking game when it's a 3D game, but I think it's also obvious to tell a good-looking pixelated game when you see one too, and Jaded is no exception. The game is super fun, fluid, and never gets old. I don't really have anything negative to say about the game. It's amazing, easy to run, and definitely something you'll want to play. Realm of the Mad God is huge. I mean, massive. If you're looking for a game to dump hundreds or thousands of hours into, this is it. And of course, it's easy to run. It's a pixelated MMO with a huge community that is still dedicated to the game even today. The community has some complaints with the game and what it's become over the years. But, when I got on, I still found tons of passionate players enjoying the game with their friends. I really can't cover it all, but there's just so much to the game. You've got 18 classes to choose from, tons of different realms and areas to explore, bosses to fight, upgrading and items to find and loot. It's just crazy. Also, you can pair up with other players and tackle the game together. Super solid game, and the value is undeniable. Definitely one you'll want to check out. If you're looking for an addicting game that still gets regular updates and is super relaxing, Outpath is what you're looking for. Now, I will say that this game is a prologue chapter to the full game, so just keep that in mind. Generally, we don't like to feature prologues unless they're really good, and this one is really good. It's addicting good. The game is a resource management / building game where you can build your base, explore islands, and craft various items and tools. Your goal is to really just expand and reach other areas. It kind of gives me Minecraft vibes, but if you were to just take the relaxing parts of Minecraft and put them in a game. And it's just such a good game, and the soundtrack is so calming too. It's weird, I think what adds to the addictive nature is the super satisfying sound effects when you pick up stuff or complete something. Basically, what I'm saying is install it, it's easy to run, very addictive, and well worth your time. Alright, well that's going to wrap it up for this video. I hope you were able to find some easy to run free games that you can add to your library. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next video.